Headlines frequently warn of increasing deportations and intensified immigration crackdowns. For undocumented individuals, the risk is indeed real. In 2025, there are 10 Asian countries whose citizens are unlikely to face deportation from Canada. Number 10. Bangladesh. Bangladesh may not consistently make international headlines, but in 2025, it is one of the fastest growing sources of immigration to Canada, and for good reason. Each year, tens of thousands of Bangladeshis arrive, not solely as refugees, but as students, tech workers, caregivers, and skilled laborers. They integrate quietly into cities like Toronto, Scarborough, and Mississauga, where the Bangladeshi community has become a critical part of Canada's urban fabric. Their contributions are constant, visible, and essential, from early morning delivery trucks to late-night ride-share drivers. They fill labor gaps that many Canadians overlook in sectors such as food supply, transportation, elder care, and technical support. They power industries that may not grab headlines but are indispensable for Canada's functioning. This is precisely why large-scale deportations are not a viable option. Beyond the humanitarian outcry, the economic damage would be immediate, potentially causing entire service sectors to collapse overnight. Politically, alienating Bangladesh, a strategic partner in South Asia, would also carry significant diplomatic consequences. Number 9. Nepal. Nepal, though a small country, is increasingly impactful on Canada's immigration landscape. In 2025, thousands of Nepali nationals live and work across British Columbia, Alberta, and Ontario, quietly filling roles in elder care, food service, logistics, and construction. They typically do not lead protests or generate headlines, and this is precisely why they are not being deported. They are integrated, stable, and needed. Many Nepalis arrive as international students, paying full tuition, working part-time, and eventually securing postgraduate work permits or permanent residency. Others come through caregiver and essential worker programs, entering fields where Canada faces severe labor shortages. Once in Canada, they rarely cause problems, with no major crime waves, political entanglements, or diplomatic disputes. Simply put, Nepalese immigrants provide Canada with no reason to deport them and every reason to retain them. In an immigration system increasingly driven by economic necessity, Nepal has positioned itself as a quiet, indispensable partner. Number 8. Pakistan. Pakistan boasts one of the most established and influential diasporas in Canada, which is a primary reason why its nationals are virtually immune to large-scale deportation. In 2025, with over 250,000 Canadians tracing their roots to Pakistan, the community spans from the heart of Toronto's suburbs to the civic boards of Vancouver, Edmonton, and Calgary. This is not a marginalized group, it is a community with significant political leverage. Pakistani Canadians are business owners, city councillors, tech entrepreneurs, teachers, and public servants. They are voters who influence elections, and in the eyes of Canadian policymakers, they represent a demographic that cannot be alienated. Beyond their influence, there are economic considerations. The Pakistani community is deeply embedded in healthcare, transportation, construction, and retail. Deporting even a fraction of this population would paralyze vital sectors. Furthermore, with diplomatic relations between Canada and Pakistan remaining stable despite rising global tensions, any attempt to target Pakistani nationals would spark a significant backlash both domestically and internationally. Number 7. Vietnam. Vietnamese immigrants have built one of the most resilient and respected communities in Canada. In 2025, this stability continues to protect them from the threat of deportation. Since the wave of refugees in the late 1970s, Canada has viewed Vietnamese nationals not as a burden but as a model of successful integration, a reputation that still safeguards them today. Across provinces like Ontario, British Columbia, and Quebec, Vietnamese Canadians operate thousands of family-run businesses, ranging from bakeries and restaurants to repair shops and nail salons. Their presence in urban neighborhoods is not just visible, it's vital. They have created jobs, preserved cultural heritage, and contributed significantly to tax revenue without making excessive demands in return. Crucially, Canada considers them a success story. Vietnamese immigrants do not attract negative legal attention, do not cause political controversy, and rarely appear in deportation statistics. Additionally, diplomatic ties between Canada and Vietnam remain smooth and largely unproblematic, with no sanctions, political standoffs, or refugee tensions. Number 6. Philippines. In 2025, no Asian country is more deeply integrated into Canada's caregiving system than the Philippines. Filipino immigrants form the backbone of elder care, childcare, and nursing fields, areas where demand continues to surge while domestic supply struggles to keep pace. This is precisely why Canada is not deporting them, it simply cannot afford to. From Vancouver to Winnipeg to Toronto, Filipino Canadians fill critical shortages in hospitals, long-term care homes, and private households. They work the night shifts that others often avoid and stay through holidays, while also sending remittances home and building their futures in Canada. Canadian immigration officials and politicians are well aware of this. Consequently, even amidst rising deportation numbers for other groups, Filipinos remain protected. Many enter through caregiver or nursing pathways that lead directly to permanent residency. Others arrive as temporary foreign workers and are quietly granted extensions or absorbed into the system. Culturally, they are a strong fit. Their English fluency, Christian traditions, and high adaptability have made Filipino immigrants one of Canada's most welcomed and integrated communities. Number 5. South Korea. South Korea's relationship with Canada is characterized by education, innovation, and trust, which is why South Korean nationals are among the safest from deportation in 2025. Unlike many other groups, most South Koreans in Canada arrive through highly selective channels, such as student visas, corporate transfers, academic fellowships, and skilled worker programs. They are not perceived as a burden but as assets. On campuses in Toronto, Vancouver, or Ottawa, South Korean students are prominent in STEM fields, research labs, and tech incubators. Many remain after graduation, entering Canada's IT, engineering, and biomedical industries. Others arrive already trained, taking key roles in startups, government agencies, and private sector firms. There are few legal disputes, minimal overstays, and almost no diplomatic tensions. South Korea maintains strong bilateral agreements with Canada, and the cultural compatibility, driven by high education levels, low crime rates, and mutual respect, ensures smooth and lasting integration. Number 4. Iran. Iranian nationals occupy a unique and protected position in Canada's immigration system, and in 2025, that protection shows no signs of diminishing. This is primarily because most Iranian immigrants are not just skilled, they are often politically untouchable. Thousands arrive as highly educated professionals, engineers, doctors, IT specialists, and professors. They settle in cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal, immediately contributing to Canada's most advanced sectors. However, what truly distinguishes Iran is the human rights dimension. Many Iranians in Canada are asylum seekers, political refugees, or members of persecuted minorities. Deporting them is not merely controversial, it is internationally condemned. At a time when Iran's government faces increasing scrutiny over human rights abuses, Canada has positioned itself as a sanctuary. Deportation would mean sending people back into danger, a line Canada consistently refuses to cross. Furthermore, Iranian Canadians have become deeply involved in civic life. They organize, vote, build businesses, and advocate. Their collective voice is growing louder, and politicians are paying attention. Number 3. China. China's influence in Canada extends beyond trade deals or diplomatic gestures. It is significantly measured in its people. In 2025, Chinese nationals constitute one of the largest and most economically powerful immigrant communities in the country, which is precisely why mass deportation is off the table. With over 1.7 million Chinese Canadians across cities like Vancouver, Richmond, Toronto, and Markham, this community has deeply embedded itself into sectors such as real estate, education, finance, tech, and retail. Chinese students alone inject billions into Canadian universities, while entrepreneurs invest in housing, restaurants, and development projects. Mandarin is also one of the most widely spoken non-official languages in the country. Simply put, Canada is economically intertwined with Chinese migration. Even considering mass deportations would destabilize sectors of the housing market, strain university budgets, and damage international relations with one of the world's largest powers. While Canada and China certainly have political tensions, from issues in Hong Kong to concerns about foreign interference, on the ground, the Chinese-Canadian population is largely perceived as loyal, hardworking, and profitable, rendering them protected. Number 2. India. India is not just Canada's largest source of new immigrants, it has become the center of Canada's immigration future. In 2025, Indian nationals dominate international student enrollment, skilled worker pathways, and family reunification programs. Deporting them is simply not an option. Walk through university campuses in Ontario, British Columbia, and Alberta, and you will find Indian students excelling in tech, business, and health sciences. They pay full tuition, support local economies, and transition directly into high-demand industries. Many go on to achieve permanent residency, purchase homes, and start families. This forms a self-reinforcing cycle, and Canada has subtly designed its system to sustain it. Beyond education, Indian immigrants are the backbone of Canada's tech sector. From major cities like Toronto and Vancouver to burgeoning hubs like Waterloo and Brampton, Indian Canadians are prominent in IT consulting, software development, and engineering. They launch startups, lead teams, and vote. Politically, Indian Canadian communities now hold substantial electoral power. Ignoring them is no longer an option, and deporting them would be political suicide. Number 1. Afghanistan. Afghanistan stands at the top of this list, not due to its economic or political influence, but because of its profound vulnerability. In 2025, Afghan nationals in Canada are among the least likely to face deportation for one clear reason: sending them back is impossible. Since the fall of Kabul in 2021 and the return of Taliban control, Canada has accepted tens of thousands of Afghan refugees, many of whom are interpreters, aid workers, and family members of those who supported NATO operations. These individuals did not just flee, they were promised protection, and that promise remains steadfast. Deporting Afghan nationals would mean sending people back to a regime where they face persecution, imprisonment, or death. International law, humanitarian policy, and basic moral standing all prevent this. Even those with expired visas or pending asylum claims are typically granted extensions, protection, and, in many cases, pathways to permanent residency. Afghan families now reside across Canada in Calgary, Toronto, Edmonton, and beyond. Their children are in school, their parents are rebuilding their lives, and their stories are marked by recent trauma. Canada doesn't just shelter them, it owes them.